Welcome to the Three Martini Lunch. Grab a stool next to Greg Columbus of Radio America and Jim Garrity of National Review. Three Martinis coming up.
He's gone, or he will be gone in 2 weeks. Andrew Cuomo, the governor of New York, who we thought would never leave office willingly. His fingernails would be clutching the desk as the impeachment votes rolled in the state legislature, but that's not the case. Just finding out minutes ago as we record this that Andrew Cuomo will, in fact, be resigning. Glad you're with us. Your stool is ready. We do have bad and crazy martinis as well, but this is obviously the headline of the day. Jim, he fought this as much as he could, but the tea leaves obviously pretty clear at this point that he just didn't have the support in the legislature. You know, if he did, he'd be hanging on as well as he could. But he did leave us with a statement today. And, man, he's leaving the same way he governed for the past nearly 12 years here, with all the moxie and the brashness that he can muster. Here's Andrew Cuomo explaining why he's leaving.
Government really needs to function today. Government needs to perform. It is a matter of life and death, government operations. And wasting energy on distractions is the last thing that state government should be doing. And I cannot be the cause of that. New York tough means New York loving. And I love New York. And I love you. And everything I have ever done has been motivated by that love. The best way I can help now is if I step aside and let government get back to governing. And therefore, that's what I'll do. Because I work for you. And doing the right thing is doing the right thing for you. Because as we say, it's not about me, it's about we.
Andrew Cuomo loves you, Jim. Well, at least he loves everybody in New York. I don't know if he loves us or not. Probably doesn't. But this is something we thought would be a much fiercer fight. But in the end, everyone is telling him to leave, and he finally got the message.
Greg, you don't have a bleep button, do you?
Can do it in post-production if I need to.
All right, I'm going to try to keep it clean. But listeners, you know what I want to say. Soon-to-be ex-Governor Cuomo, shut the hell up. Jeez Louise, stop whining and telling us how. First of all, yeah, we're in this mess because of the way you quote-unquote love New Yorkers, which is why you kept groping them. But what's more is, he also loves senior citizens, which is why we have so many people in nursing homes who passed away from COVID-19. On the one hand, today is a triumph for the forces of truth and justice. It is a well-earned comeuppance, and it is a needed cleansing of an extraordinarily corrupt political system. What is frustrating is that the narrative he is attempting to craft here is, I'm living because I grew up a state trooper. What am I going to do? And he had the utter audacity, the sheer bleeping hubris to claim that he never thought he crossed a line. He hadn't realized how much the line had been crossed. Apparently groping used to be okay, Greg. Apparently used to be totally okay to kiss women without the permission. Used to be totally fine to ask your staff about their sex lives and talk about your sex life with them and things like that. No, it was never okay. There was never something like your women subordinates do not want to hear about the boss's sex life. Oh my God. So there's kind of this shamelessness here. And there's going to be this, hey, he was a little, old fashioned with women, instead of, look, as bad as this was, and this is pretty appalling. What really is, this was when you see the story in today's New Yorker by Ronan Farrow about he called up Valerie Jarrett at the White House and wanted the White House to get Preet Bharara, the U.S. attorney, off his butt. The degree to which the nursing home thing, the just sheer regular disingenuousness, the attempt to intimidate lawmakers, the temper tantrums, all this stuff. This was a monstrous narcissist in office who was, who, by the way, was highly enabled by the media and the ludicrous amount of gushing praise that they gave them, that they should all be hanging their heads in shame over. That in the end, they liked the way he sounded on television. They have the most shallow conceivable criteria for assessing leadership that you could imagine. They could not be bothered to look at what was actually happening in the state of New York and in its nursing homes. New York State, by the way, is still, I believe, second in the country in deaths per capita. It is still, I believe, somewhere in that pretty high in that category of cases per capita. It is not great. It is just a absolutely appalling story in American politics. It is perhaps one of the most vivid examples of what has gone wrong with this country's national news media and the way we discuss our politics. That the man that they spent almost all of 2020 telling us was the best governor in the country. I just went and I found U.S. News and World Report said he called him America's governor. That in the end, he was one of the worst, and not just one of the worst governors in terms of results. He also was among the very worst human beings out of all the nation's governors, and probably in the entire system of politics. It's really infuriating. And I'd love to see somebody learn something from this. And I guess I can't. That's the bitter aftertaste of this good martini, Greg. I don't think anybody's going to learn anything from this.
Probably not. There's so many ways to follow up here, but we do have other martinis, so I just want to get to them as quickly as we can. First of all, congratulations, Janice Dean. I don't think anybody beat the drum against Andrew Cuomo, mostly about the nursing homes, of course, because both of her in-laws died because of that ridiculous policy. But as she tweeted recently, I don't care how he goes, he just needs to go. So we'll see if there's any further investigation in New York on the nursing home situation that could land him in more hot water, but either way, he's leaving now. And the question now, Jim, is have you ever seen a more meteoric collapse here of someone the media loves so much, especially someone in this position? I mean, you can have the Michael Avenattis and other people who kind of just flash into our conscience briefly over a couple of years and then collapse like he did. But Cuomo, who's been around forever from this political dynasty family, celebrated everywhere last year, and then just bam, 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 scandal after scandal, and all of a sudden he's hitting the bricks, and he doesn't even have a house to go to.
Greg, I think the only one that comes close might be Gavin Newsom. I'm sorry. Wait, that's for next month's podcast. Sorry, I was getting ahead of myself. By the way, I don't know about you, Greg. I enjoyed our discussion, but I feel like there's a lot more meat on the bone. I just plan around 8 o'clock tonight, tuning into CNN to just get the whole story and to see what to get all the details, to get exactly what's going on at 8 o'clock on CNN. Chris Cuomo.
Oh, man. Well, and it's been found out that even after he promised CNN he wasn't advising his brother again, he still was in the wake of this Attorney General's report. So who knows how long he'll have his job. We will find out on that. Jim, it's been said, this is not a joke that's original to me, but since George Pataki left office as New York governor in January of 2007, so over the past 14 and a half years, there have been 3 governors of New York. 2 have been forced from office now for their wandering eyes, and the only one that wasn't was legally blind. Anyway, there's a coda for that one. We'll, I'm sure, have more Andrew Cuomo grist in the days ahead. Who knows? He might even change his mind and still try to fight. But let's talk about more good news, and that's how to get your student debt under control. Because with today's low interest rates, while they're still low, we've got an inflation problem here, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in the next Martini. It's a great time to refinance your student loans. Times are tough, and worrying about those loan payments don't make things any easier. And that's where refinancing them with Earnest could help. So say goodbye to stressful student loan payments and take charge of your future with Earnest.
Earnest offers low-rate student loan refinancing, and you can check your rate risk-free in just 2 minutes. With Earnest, you get radically flexible payments, and you can pick your loan term. By refinancing, you can reduce your loan term, save money, or combine multiple loans into a simple monthly payment. And if you have questions, you can even talk to a real live human being at Earnest for help. Now, isn't it time you stopped feeling overwhelmed by your student debt?
Now is that time. Earnest is giving 3 Martini Lunch listeners a $100 bonus. Refinance your student loans at earnest.com/martini. Remember that terms and conditions do apply. But once again, you get a $100 cash bonus when you visit earnest.com/martini to refinance your student loan. It's not available in all states. And again, terms and conditions apply. All right, Jim, let's talk about that inflation problem, because just before Andrew Cuomo announced his resignation, the U.S. Senate voted overwhelmingly to pass the $1.1 trillion infrastructure bill with 19 Republican senators signing on. 69-30 was the final vote. All the Democrats who were there were voting yes, and so did 19 Republicans. And so that means that when we look at this boondoggle, because you do have some infrastructure projects that need work, but as you've said before, the problem is usually over-exaggerated. But once you get past roads, bridges, airports, maybe a little bit of broadband, maybe a little bit of power grid, there's still hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars that's unrelated to any of that in here. And now Republicans are giving the Democrats political cover, and the Democrats are already licking their chops, getting ready for their $3.5 trillion bill that they have no intention of trying to get Republican support for.
Yeah, one of the things that kind of becomes increasingly clear month by month of the Biden administration, and I don't think this is looking at the past through rose-colored glasses. Look, last time Republicans, conservatives were confronting a new Democratic administration, it was Barack Obama, who was hope and change, and he'd won by quite a solid margin. And the Newsweek cover had "We are all socialists now" and all kind of stuff. But by this point, August of 2009, you had begun to see the first movements, motions, kind of gatherings, things that turned into the Tea Party movement. We're coming towards the end of summer of 2021. It's not quite the same. It just, you don't see that kind of galvanized movement amongst conservative grassroots, Republican grassroots. They're just not as motivated by that. And that, I think, is one reason you're seeing Republicans buy on to these spending bills in ways that they did not for the Obama stimulus, in ways they did not for Obamacare and things like that. Maybe I get that for a lot of Republicans, this is the least damaging thing that Biden wants to do, but at least that's really just a small comfort because of the sheer amount of this and the likelihood that they're going to get another couple trillion tossed on through reconciliation. Fiscal conservatism really is dead, and there's really no there's very little sign that Republicans are even interested in returning to this. There are a variety of issues for this. I think the fact the pandemic isn't over is absorbing a great deal of the energy on the right, whether it's mask mandates or reopening schools or vaccine requirements and mandates and stuff like that. I kind of wonder, whether QAnon has absorbed a certain amount of folks. Former President Trump clearly still wants to. He thinks he's getting reinstated in August, and but we keep being told, it's going to happen. Apparently, this week is when it's coming. There's just other things that are occupying the energy on the right, and a lot of culture war stuff. And as a result of it, people aren't paying attention to a spending fight. And I think it's going to, long term, it's really going to hurt the country, right?
We're already at $28 trillion of debt. We were, a little bit over 20, which was horrible enough before all the pandemic-related spending happened. And now we've just piled on and piled on and piled on. But of course, we were told, Jim, that this was going to be paid for. And you explained that there was quite a bit of money left over from the COVID relief to the states that could have been used to pay for this. But of course, we can't do that. There are some pay-fors in here, but I believe the majority of the bill is just going to pile on to the debt. And, of course, then they really want to blow it up with the next bill. And, of course, this is what you get when you vote for Democrats to have the majority, and you have Bernie Sanders running the Budget Committee and pretty much setting the parameters for all this. So while Biden may have won the presidential nomination last year and the presidential election, Bernie Sanders is the one kind of driving the train here, and that's really scary.
Yeah, I mean, I guess an interesting question will be if Republicans have a good 2022, if they win back the House, if they win back the Senate or something like that, will they, slam the brakes on spending, or will there be kind of just a comfort with the status quo and Republicans mostly focusing on it? Because you're going to tell you, the status quo with this rate of spending is still very, very bad. Yeah,
it's really bad. With Republicans controlling Congress and Biden in the White House, I think they'll talk a pretty good game on spending reductions. But if Republicans then hold the Congress and have a Republican president in 2024, we've seen that movie twice now. We saw it from 2005 to 2007 and 2017 to 2019. They're not serious about it, unfortunately. I wish they were, but they're not. All right, let's talk about something way better than that, and that's the great deal you can get on MyPillow's 6-piece towel set. MyPillow with great products. The pillows are great, the sheets are great, the slippers are great, but the MyPillow towel set, also fantastic. The towels, whether it's the hand towel or the bath towel, super soft, really fluffy, big, gets you dry super fast, and again, massive savings if you order right now.
You can get the 6-piece towel set, which regularly sells for $109.99, for just $39.99. Now, each one of these sets has 2 bath towels, 2 hand towels, and a washcloth 2-pack. These towels are made from proprietary technology that makes them highly absorbent. They're soft to the touch without that lotiony feel, and they're made from cotton grown right here in the United States. They're available in a variety of colors and sizes, machine washable, and they feature a 60-day money-back guarantee and a 1-year limited warranty.
So visit mypillow.com and use the promo code Martini at checkout or call 800-874-0104. The MyPillow 6-piece towel set for just $39.99. Now, while you're there, take advantage of the deep discounts on all MyPillow products, including the Giza Dream bed sheets and the MyPillow premium pillows. MyPillow.com, promo code Martini, or call 800-874-0104. All right, Jim, mentioned in passing 2005 to 2007. That was during the George W. Bush administration. And, of course, when he came into office, his number one priority was education. He was famous for the No Child Left Behind Act. Conservatives definitely have conflicting opinions on that. But his catchphrase during the 2000 campaign was his clarion call against the soft bigotry of low expectations in our public schools. Well, those are alive and well, sadly, and the latest example of that is in the state of Oregon. The Oregonian, credit to them for getting this story out. For the next 5 years, an Oregon high school diploma will be no guarantee that the student who earned it can read, write, or do math at a high school level. Governor Kate Brown had demurred earlier this summer regarding whether she supported the plan passed by the legislature to drop the requirement that students demonstrate they have achieved those essential skills. But on July 14th, the governor signed Senate Bill 744 into law. Through a spokesperson, the governor declined again Friday to comment on the law and why she supported suspending the proficiency requirements. Now, Jazz Shaw over at Hot Air has dug into this a little bit more. And he says, as to the reason for dropping all of these critical standards, it's based on allegations of racism, of course. The governor's deputy communications director said that dropping the requirements, quote, will benefit Oregon's Black, Latino, Latina, Latinx, Indigenous, Asian, Pacific Islander, tribal, and students of color. The obvious implication being that, however these standards are crafted, is somehow unfair to them. So instead of improving their scores by making sure they understand what's being tested and so forth and just building those skills, which is kind of their job, we're just going to pretend those standards don't exist now so nobody has any problems getting shuffled right through the system. Jim?
Greg, my first thought in response to that statement is, so Oregon Asian Americans are having trouble passing these minimal standards? Really? Is there something in the water there in Oregon? Because, on a whole bunch of places in this country, Asian Americans are the ones doing phenomenally. Right? Thomas Jefferson Science and Technology Academy here in Fairfax County, they recalibrated everything because the school was too Asian American. Some of us think you should just, give everybody the same test, give everybody the same standards. The kids do the best, let them on in.
Yep.
But no, that's not fair, apparently. But then the second thing is, do you really think you're helping Black, Latino, Latinx, Latina, and all these other groups by saying we're not going to have this standard anymore? We're not going to have any standards at all for you. We've decided those minimal standards are too hard, and that we're going to tell you that you've achieved without actually requiring you to achieve. Can we think of anything that is more likely to set people on a path for failure in life than to say, we will not hold you to any standards? That in the end, we've decided we have to lower the bar as far as we possibly can so that you feel good about yourself artificially instead of actually walking around with the pride of genuine accomplishment. But I'm going to go out on a crazy limb and say, yeah, Oregon's a big state. I'm fairly certain you can find some minority students who can pass these standards. In fact, I'm pretty sure there are a whole bunch of them who do. I feel like this is actually just a matter of just being uncomfortable with the figures. And the first way you solve a problem is you recognize that it's a problem. You don't sweep it under the rug. You don't close your eyes. You don't be an ostrich and put your head in the sand. You don't pretend it's not there. You acknowledge it. If the Oregon school systems are failing minority students, so that by the time it comes for them to finish their education, head out into the world, they are not ready and they cannot meet minimal standards. That's not, isn't, look, if you want to argue, okay, that's a racist system of education, then fix the racist system of education. A lot of us would say, you know what might help? School choice. Give all kinds of minority parents the option of which school they want to send their kid to. Won't work for everybody. They're not going to work miracles, but if you have a parent who's stuck with a school that they feel isn't giving their kids the best education, then they're probably going to have to say, you know what, let me send them to the school on the other side of town. I like the results they're getting. And maybe the kids will get a better education. A lot of people who work in education say, look, everybody knows that if you're in a wealthy neighborhood, whether or not it's got private schools, that they basically wealthier neighborhoods, generally white, are the ones that are going to have excellent public school systems because the best teachers go there. Who goes to the other schools? The ones who aren't the best, in some cases the worst. And the poorer the community, the more economic problems you have, the more likely it is the local public schools got a whole bunch of problems, including the bottom of the barrel of teachers, and the ones that have the lowest standards for the teachers. And if you have the lowest standards for the teachers, you're inevitably going to end up with the lowest standards for the kids. So Oregon, look, they figured out what their problem is. We're just going to we don't like the measurements we're getting, so we're going to stop measuring. That's not going to do much good for the kids of Oregon.
No, not at all. And it goes back to this thing we've talked about a couple of different times in recent months, and especially a couple of different times when Biden was way off base on the campaign trail. And that's that a lot of folks on the left, I'm not going to use a totally blanket brush, but Biden's certainly one of them, and other Democrats are as well. They simply don't believe that certain people can achieve unless they basically get handheld by the Democratic Party. Remember Biden's quote last year that poor kids are just as smart as white kids? I mean, where does that come from? And then we just had this whole fight over whether or not people of color are able to actually acquire a voter ID. Finally, now it looks like they're moving away from that stupid argument. But it's just this, I don't even know what adjectives to use for it, but over and over and over again.
Racist, Greg. Racist is the word you're looking for.
Yes, exactly. They just simply don't believe that you can achieve on your own. And I would find that incredibly insulting. Maybe they do. I don't know. But we don't hear much backlash to this kind of infantilizing of one of their major voting demographics. It's just bizarre.
Yeah, you kind of wonder if there's a certain amount of a white savior complex on the parts of Biden, Pelosi, Schumer, all those folks who basically believe your community has problems and your community cannot rise up above these problems without me and my help. Without me, you're nothing, which is not, you don't see nearly as much resentment of that as I think there ought to be, but maybe there is. You do see some shifting of these numbers in a general sense. The fact that, school choice has always polled phenomenally well amongst African-American parents is kind of a clear indicator that they know what's best for their communities. For some odd question, though, the Democratic officials who say they represent them just never seem all that motivated by this.
Amazing. Quite a day, Jim. Quite a day. We'll see what the news offers up for us tomorrow. Talk to you then.
See you tomorrow, Greg.
Jim Garrity, National Review. I'm Greg Columbus of Radio America. Thanks for being with us today. Please subscribe to the 3 Martini Lunch podcast if you don't already. Tell your friends about us as well. We are very grateful for your 5-star ratings and your kind reviews. Get us on those home devices. All you have to say is play 3 Martini Lunch podcast. And follow us on Twitter. He's at Jim Garrity. I'm at Dateline_DC. Have a great Tuesday, and please join us Wednesday for the next 3 Martini Lunch.
Conservatives have better arguments, but the left is much better at messaging. That is a big problem. I'm Sarah Carter. On the latest Sarah Carter Show, I'll discuss how to solve this challenge with acclaimed singer and actor Robert Davi and the new film about Hunter Biden he is directing. I'll also address the latest hysteria from the United Nations on climate change and a new big tech threat to our privacy. Join me. Subscribe to the Sarah Carter Show on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.